how to get programming right. Oh, hey, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Nick, this is the Elemenatl Health YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at the 5 different systems that you can utilise for your fitness programming. The idea of today's video is to dive into 5 different ways that you can think about your fitness programming and how you can start to think about pulling it apart and getting it right with some sort of specificity that is going to deliver a result that's meaningful for you. So in the wider kind of fitness world, there are probably 100 plus different ways to program your fitness, different systems, different methodologies, different focus points for every weird and wonderful way of training out there. And from my experience, some aspect of probably most of those systems will have some benefit, and diligently followed get some sort of result. The problem is, will that be meaningful for you, and will it deliver against your expectations and your desires, more importantly, and your dreams of defining yourself, getting to where you want in relation to your goals? And arguably I'd say no because it's just too much noise and too much to think about. So the first thing to say, the most important factor, is your goal, where you want to get to. And this is something Dan John goes into in his book. It's this notion, and I talk about it a lot in my coaching, that people don't really understand point A, where they are at the moment, and they certainly haven't defined clearly the point B, where they want to get to. Now, I'm going to go into that in much more detail in another video, so check the links down below if you're really unclear as to what your goal should be and where you want to get to with your fitness, and I'm probably some resources that can help you down below. So we've got goal. Then we need to understand the knowledge and the preparedness of the individual. I'm talking from a coaching perspective, but you can think of this as yourself. If you're obviously not a coach and you're kind of just trying to understand where you fit in this whole system and what's going to work for you. So we need to understand the knowledge that we've got and the physical preparedness, the starting point we're at. Because everyone is going to be at a slightly different level, and lots of people really need to focus on the foundational stuff. That's not to say it's basic, and that's not to say it won't deliver results, it won't deliver amazing results. In fact, I think, largely speaking, most people should be focusing just on the fundamentals to get the most amazing results, and the jazzy, fluffy stuff is usually not what's going to deliver for you. And the goal in kind of military circles would be the main effort, and I think that's a nice way to think about it in this context of trying to get you somewhere. What is the main effort? What's the main thing you're going to focus on a daily basis to move you forward? There are 5, no particular order. Some I believe are going to deliver a much better outcome than others. And number 1 is isolated body part training. This is kind of your classic kind of bro split, or a kind of foundational strength program would probably fall into this category as well, and all your kind of bodybuilder hypertrophic training I would put in this isolated body part component. And that's number 1, and that's going to be very effective in delivering an outcome, a specific outcome. And that outcome will be obviously your hypertrophic gains, so getting the gains, or your specific strength goal, so getting stronger in a specific lift, or generally just becoming much stronger. Number 2 is endurance focused training. with some sort of conditioning element. So this is obviously a good system. Again, it all comes down to that goal. This is going to be a good system if your goal is endurance specific. Now, for a long time, that was the case for me. Coming from a military background, coming from a kind of a sporting background, I had to have a good endurance engine. So an aspect of that was very, very important for me. The caveat that I throw in there, I don't know if you noticed, was around a conditioning element to that. So we come into this situation, we find problems when we just do the thing that we want to do. So runners are the worst, and I've coached over hundreds of runners at this point, and they are categorically the worst when it comes to finding the right blend of training to do for their sport. So they will just go for runs. Largely, they won't. The short runs will be too slow. The long runs will be too fast, and they won't do any specific conditioning or mobility training. And that obviously leads to loads and loads of problems. So if you want a good endurance engine, then obviously you need to have an endurance-focused training program. But it needs to include some kind of conditioning and mobility element. Otherwise, you're going to create these massive imbalances and largely lead yourself down the path to injury. Number 3 is your general blended fitness program. And I think this is what kind of most people are doing. And I guess it could also be, it could encompass this notion of intuitive training as well. And I think in very specific context, it can be great. But largely speaking, it doesn't deliver a specific result. And the key component for that, it's got the word general in there, and it's designed around this nebulous kind of focus or lack of focus that is kind of just generally, I just want to feel a little bit fitter, a little bit better, move a little bit better. Well, unless you're being specific, you're never going to get to that result. And I would encourage people to move away from this kind of this generalist approach with no specific outcome orientated. And that is your classic kind of, I do a bit of HIIT training, I go for the odd run, I like a bit of cycling, I don't bother with much strength training, and certainly not addressing any imbalances, and don't really want to develop their knowledge and understanding towards a specific goal. So, for me, it's not a good starting point. There is a group of people, a subset of very healthy humans who can really find this effective because they don't necessarily need to have a specific goal. They're already where they want to be. Now, if you're watching this, I would suggest that that's not you. So I would steer clear of this generalist approach, this kind of general fitness thing that's going on out there, and try to really find that lens and find that focus. Number 4 is having a mobility-focused programming view of fitness. And this is quite rare. This is quite rare. You don't see that many people focusing on this. I guess you could put into that camp the yogis of the world, but I think that training system is a bit like running. People do it if they're good at it, and therefore that they're neglecting other areas like strength, and maybe endurance, whatever it might be. So a good mobility, and that's what. So my version would be of number 4 would be mobility with end range strength. And one of my kind of heroes in this space is Kelly Starrett, Dr. Kelly Starrett, and he really focuses on this good mobility, incorporating this end range strength, and really being strong through lots of different planes and lots of different motilities and mobilities. And I think it's an incredible way to view the world and move forward. However, it's not one many people will follow. And I think the main reason for that is it doesn't have a kind of sex appeal to it in the marketing space. And also it's not your classic kind of muscle gains, fat loss focus that I think a lot of people are after. but the flexibility, the mobility component, and doing it in the right way is a surefire way to actually be healthier, happier, and ultimately stronger, because you're able to connect your body properly and really deliver against those strength mechanisms biomechanically. Number 5 is concurrent periodization. Now, there is a mouthful. This is, I guess this could be put in the camp of kind of generalist, but I don't put it in that camp, and that's because by definition it has a lot more to it and a lot more thought behind it. Therefore, it's not although it's designed to be flexible and look at different aspects of health and fitness, it's a much more granular approach than just saying general fitness, which was number 3, I think. So this is where you split your training sessions into very specific areas. So if you look at a week, you might have a single training session one day where you really focus on strength goals. So you do low reps, high weight, and really trying to get those strength gains with a very specific focus for that single session. Then you might have another session where you look at dynamic movement patterns, still incorporating a strength component, maybe with a bit more volume. Then you might have an endurance day where you're really trying to get the engine fired. Then you might have a volume day where you're just cranking it up again to try and get the hypertrophic values. And then you might have a mobility day where you're just doing pure mobility. Now, this probably is probably too advanced and too complex, I think, for lots and lots of people. But it obviously has some clear benefits, and it comes on this umbrella of multiple goals, which I think is dangerous ground. So I wouldn't necessarily be an advocate of it. But if you look at kind of how elite sports people train, if their discipline requires a kind of multifaceted approach, then probably they're going to have this concurrent periodization approach to their training with specific focus sessions around different goals and different settings, which is great. But I would encourage you not to choose number 5 and go for something that is much more focused, 1 or 2, around your a single specific main effort until you get to that point. So the point here is very, very clear, and hopefully I've made that point. You need to pick one main effort and keep focused and align the program that you're going to partake to that goal. Too many people do not do that. Don't be a wandering generality. Don't be a wandering generality. I'll say that again. Don't be a wandering generality. Pick one method and go after it. Follow that system until you get a result. And that's why I tend to start off with focusing not on kind of these glitzy things like fat loss or kind of muscle mass. For me, the 3 areas are energy, mobility, and strength. And if kind of that's piquing your interest, then there'll be a link down below that can lead you on to a challenge for free that I'm sure will get you moving on that path. There we have it. 5 different ways to think about your programming and think about the outcome that you're after and trying to match that up to the program. There are other ways, lots and lots of other ways, but hopefully I've broken that down so it kind of makes sense and you can kind of fit into where you are and where you want to get to, and there might be a shift that's required there. If you liked this video, then please give us a like, click that like button, and also comment down below. Let me know what was good, what was not so good, and any questions that you have. And I will see you on the next one.